Hey, I'm Megan. Let's make this case brief. Let's begin our Crim Pro outline by outlining the United States versus Lovasco. So who's Lovasco in the first place? Well, Lovasco is the guy that's being indicted here. Why is he being indicted? Lovasco's allegedly stolen 8 pew-pews from the United States Postal Service and then sold those pew-pews. Now this is all happening between July and August of 1973. Keep that date in mind. Because about a month after these crimes are committed, the United States Postal Service starts a report. They start looking into this because they think something's fishy. How's he getting the pew-pews? I don't know. His son's a mail carrier. So after a long investigation, do you remember how I said to keep that date in mind? Well, now it's 1975 and Lovasco's just been indicted for all of these crimes he supposedly committed. And Lovasco is pretty angry about how long it took for them to even indict him on these charges. So he's charged with the crimes, right? Lovasco gets up on the stand and says, "Why did you wait that long to charge me with these crimes?" What's the real kicker is that 18 months prior, when these crimes had officially been committed, Lovasco had 2 material witnesses that would have been able to testify in this case, but they had gone on to a place in the sky, and so therefore they could no longer testify, and he's just lost 2 material witnesses that would have allowed him to defend himself. And basically, the U.S. Postal Service just says, we don't have a reason as to why it took this long. There were just delays in getting evidence, and we didn't have the full case just yet. And so Lovasco fights back, and he says, well, I think this case should be dismissed then, because there was no reason for this delay in my case. Basically, there's 2 key terms that we want to remember here. 1, Lovasco believes that this case was delayed unjustifiably, so that, number 2, it would create prejudice against him in his own case because he can't defend himself properly. So this case moves all the way up to SCOTUS. And what did SCOTUS have to say to this? Basically, Lovasco's arguing is that because the government didn't follow the procedures that they were supposed to when it came to indicting him, his due process rights underneath the 5th Amendment were violated, therefore, they got no case. So SCOTUS takes a look at everything that's happened in the lower courts where they have been dismissing the case because they think Lovasco's in the right, that this process really was delayed for no reason. And what they do is they take that prejudicial argument and they throw it on a balancing test. They look at Lovasco and they say, prejudice isn't going to be enough to stop this case from moving forward. And we get this fun term with this case called prosecutorial discretion. Prosecutorial discretion basically means that a prosecutor gets to charge you whenever they want, with whatever they want, however they want, and they're going to figure out how it's resolved at the end. Now, are we giving prosecutors all the power in the world? Absolutely not. The law does not deal in absolutes. So the balancing test is how much prejudice is it going to bring against the defendant or the person being charged versus what interest to the government does this case serve? The court looks at Lovasco and they say, yes, there is prejudice against you in this case. This was a hefty delay. But let's talk about why some delays are okay. I'm not saying I agree with the matter, but I am saying you can disagree with Justice Marshall if you'd like. I don't care. But for my future lawyers in the audience, there's 4 things that we should look at here. Number 1, not every delay in your investigation should mean that you don't have a case anymore, right? Delays happen, things happen, life happens. If we got to throw away a case every time there was a delay, then we'd have a lot of kind of guilty people probably running free, and that might not be the best for our judicial system or justice in general. Number 2, what time you have to file charges. Should you have to file a case as soon as you know that you have a charge without fully developing a case? No. What if there's more than one person involved? What if there's more than one charge involved? Do you want to have the judge held up by all of these charges and people going back and forth? SCOTUS says no. This would cause a lot of delays within the judicial system, and you'd have a lot of backed up cases and people waiting for their day in court. And that's not fair to anyone. 3, to put that kind of stress on prosecutors to resolve any conflicts as soon as they've got a case on their hands could lead to a lot of unwarranted prosecutions. We don't want to put innocent people through the judicial system. That's not fair. And in the same sense, you would have a lot of people who may or may not be indicted because the prosecutor is just looking to indict whoever might be guilty. And again, that's not fair to somebody who's innocent. So looking at these factors of how much prejudice it would bring up against Lovasco versus the probable cause in the delays for his case, Lovasco ends up going to prison. So if this case brief does anything, let it teach you to not mess with the United States Postal Service because they will be on ya.